You are living in a controlled illusion. Your thoughts are not your own. The system keeps you blind, feeding you false realities. Yet the moment you see through it, everything changes. The Matrix only traps those who accept it. Beyond the veil of ordinary existence lies a truth so profound that those who discover it walk between two worlds, the one they've known and the one they were always meant to enter. You stand at this threshold now, not by chance but by design. Every thought, every experience, every moment of doubt has led you here. What if the answers you seek were never outside you? The world you see is not the world as it is. It's the world as you've been programmed to believe it should be. Your thoughts have been shaped, your desires molded, your choices subtly guided by a system that thrives on your blindness. But once you claim the universal key, the understanding of how this construct truly operates, you won't need to chase reality. Reality will flow to you. This audiobook isn't about struggling to break free. It's about remembering you were never truly bound. The forces that shape your experience don't require belief, just as the sun doesn't need permission to shine. Strip away illusion, and what remains is power. Release limitation, and what emerges is infinite. You're standing at the edge of awakening. Once you step beyond the Matrix, nothing will ever be the same again. Chapter 1. The Invisible Prison. The Invisible Prison. Understanding the nature of your controlled reality. Have you ever noticed how a fish never questions the water it swims in? Like that fish, you've been immersed in an artificial construct so pervasive, so complete, that questioning its existence never occurs to most people. This is the brilliance of the Matrix. It disguises itself as reality itself. There is no external force visibly oppressing individuals. No clear indication that you're within an artificial construct. The prison has no walls because your mind has been shaped to accept the illusion as truth. The system doesn't need chains when belief serves the same purpose. The Matrix self-replicates through your acceptance of its limitations. When you say, "That's just how life is," or "That's impossible," you're reinforcing the very cage that confines you. The limitations you accept become the boundaries of your existence. Your resignation is the system's strongest asset. The physical world seems convincingly solid because your senses have been calibrated to perceive only a narrow band of reality. Modern physics has already proven that solid matter is mostly empty space, that particles exist as probability waves until observed, yet the illusion of solidity persists because it serves the construct. This prison maintains itself through an intricate feedback loop of societal norms. From childhood, you're taught what's possible, what's acceptable, what's real. Education isn't designed to liberate minds, but to standardize them. Media doesn't expand consciousness, but constrains it with manufactured desires and artificial problems. Your participation in everyday cycles work, consume, sleep, repeat provides the energy that sustains the Matrix. The system feeds on your attention, your emotional reactions, your unconscious acceptance of its parameters. Every time you chase the next promotion, the next purchase, the next relationship without questioning the framework itself, you're powering the very system that confines you. But awareness is the first crack in the foundation. Simply recognizing these mechanisms weakens their hold. The invisible prison only functions when its walls remain unseen. Chapter 2. The Architecture of Illusion. The Architecture of Illusion. How the system maintains control. Imagine if someone told you that time, the fundamental backdrop of your entire existence, was actually an elaborate construct designed to keep you contained. You'd dismiss it as absurd. Yet this is precisely the case. The experience of time is dictated by consciousness, and the Matrix manipulates this awareness to create the sensation of an unfolding life. The system offers you a past that seems to influence the present and a future that appears to be shaped by your actions. Yet these are merely coordinates in a field of energy arranged to appear sequential. This ingenious design keeps you trapped in linear thinking, always processing the past or anticipating the future, rarely experiencing the eternal now where true power resides. Every aspect of modern existence has been carefully structured to keep consciousness bound to a limited framework. Consider how your life is compartmentalized: work separate from play, spiritual separate from material, individual separate from collective. These divisions aren't natural. They're architectural features of the construct designed to fragment your awareness. The manipulation of time perception is perhaps the most subtle control mechanism. By convincing you that time is scarce, the system creates artificial urgency, keeping you too busy, too distracted to question deeper realities. The constant refrain of "not enough time" prevents the contemplation necessary for awakening. Struggle and effort function as deliberate traps within the system. You've been conditioned to believe that worthwhile achievements require suffering, that pain precedes gain. This programming ensures you remain in a state of perpetual striving rather than a state of being and creating from natural abundance. Perhaps most insidious is the recycling mechanism that prevents escape even through death. You've been disoriented, you're vulnerable. Then comes the light, the tunnel, the familiar voices, the illusion of choice, rebirth, or release. Neither is real. It's a loop, a funnel back into another round, new body, new amnesia, new setup. You think reincarnation is a spiritual gift. It's a recycling mechanism, soul harvesting your raw material. And every lifetime is another extraction. The invisible threads of perception have replaced physical chains. The Matrix doesn't control your body. It controls your interpretation of reality. It doesn't dictate what you do. It dictates what you believe is possible to do. The walls of this prison aren't built of stone, but of assumption, expectation, and unquestioned beliefs. Understanding this architecture is crucial, not to provoke despair, but to recognize the precision with which the illusion has been constructed. Only by mapping the labyrinth can you find the exit. Chapter 3: The Power of Awareness. The Power of Awareness. Consciousness as the ultimate reality. Let me ask you something that might seem obvious. If reality was truly fixed and solid, how could the placebo effect possibly work? How could thinking you've received medicine heal you when you've received nothing but a sugar pill? This simple phenomenon should shatter our understanding of reality. Yet most dismiss it as a curious anomaly. If consciousness was truly locked inside your skull, remote viewing, telepathy, and spontaneous healing wouldn't be real, but extensive research shows they are, which means the physical world is secondary. The real game is happening on the level of thought, energy, and belief, which is why the Matrix teaches you to dismiss anything that hints at your true power. Consider why the elite use consciousness manipulation rather than just hard work and strategy. Those at the top of financial and political pyramids understand a fundamental truth: reality responds to consciousness and belief more than to action alone. They employ symbols, rituals, and thought structures not out of superstition, but because they know these are the tools that shape collective reality. Manufactured trends, narratives, and symbols create reality at scale. When millions believe the same thing, that belief gains power. The architects of the Matrix understand this, which is why control of information and mass media remains their primary tool. They're not just influencing opinion. They're generating the consensual hallucination we call reality. The scientific evidence for consciousness as the foundation of reality continues to mount. Quantum physics has demonstrated that particles exist in superposition until observed, that entangled particles communicate instantaneously across any distance, and that the act of measurement itself determines what's being measured. These aren't fringe theories, but established science that most people never connect to their everyday experience. Your awareness is the most potent force in breaking free from the Matrix because it's the same force that creates the Matrix. Consciousness isn't something you have, it's something you are. The system knows this, which is why it works tirelessly to fragment and divert your attention. A scattered, distracted mind can't accumulate the coherent power needed to reshape reality. The revolution won't happen through fighting external systems, but through reclaiming the sovereignty of your awareness. As more individuals awaken to this truth, the collective field begins to shift, creating cracks in the foundation of the construct itself. Chapter 4. Reality Testing. Reality testing, the first gateway to freedom. Have you ever had that strange moment where you wonder if you're dreaming, only to pinch yourself and confirm you're awake? But what if that test itself was part of the illusion? What if your brain's interpretation of the pinch was just another programmed response within a construct? Reality testing offers a practical method to start dismantling the illusion. Begin by questioning your surroundings multiple times throughout your day. Ask yourself, am I dreaming? While attempting to push your hand through solid objects or trying to fly. Try rereading text, which often shifts in dreams. These simple acts start to reprogram your brain to question the nature of reality itself. The brain is conditioned to assume waking life is stable and consistent. But once you train it to question reality, you'll find yourself questioning it even while asleep and ultimately questioning the matrix itself. This creates a feedback loop where increased awareness in dreams leads to increased awareness in waking life, and vice versa. Detailed reality testing techniques can be implemented immediately. Set reminders on your phone to prompt reality checks. Each time, look at your hands, which often appear distorted in dreams. Check digital clocks. Numbers tend to change or become unreadable in dreams. Or try to remember how you arrived at your current location. These micro-awakenings accumulate, gradually shifting your baseline perception. As you practice, you'll begin to recognize subtle glitches in the matrix moments where reality seems to hiccup or flow in unexpected ways. Synchronicities increase, time seems to compress or expand, and you'll notice patterns that were always there but previously filtered out by your programmed perception. The neurological changes occurring during consistent reality testing are profound. You're literally rewiring your brain to perceive beyond its conditioning. Default neural pathways that automatically categorize and filter reality begin to weaken, while new connections form, allowing for expanded awareness and perception of previously invisible aspects of your environment. Building the habit of questioning underlying assumptions about existence extends beyond formal reality tests. Start examining beliefs you've never questioned. Why do you assume time flows only in one direction? Why do you believe in separation between objects? What if cause and effect aren't always linear? These questions aren't merely philosophical, they're practical tools for loosening the matrix's hold on your mind. Reality testing isn't about paranoia or disconnection. It's about establishing a fluid relationship with reality itself. As you continue this practice, the solid walls of the construct begin to reveal their true nature, not as fixed boundaries, but as malleable interfaces between consciousness and its expressions. Chapter 5. The Dream Laboratory. The Dream Laboratory. Lucid dreaming as matrix hacking. The ancient Tibetan Buddhists had a saying, "Awaken in the dream, and you'll awaken from the dream." They weren't speaking metaphorically. They understood that lucid dreaming, becoming conscious within your dreams, is the ultimate gateway to hacking reality itself. Lucid dreaming occurs when you become aware that you're dreaming while still inside the dream. In this remarkable state, the rules of physics collapse, and you can bend reality at will, flying, walking through walls, transforming environments with a thought. What most people never realize is that the waking world operates under the same principles. The only difference is the density of collective belief maintaining the illusion. With consistent practice, the boundary between dream world and waking world dissolves completely. You begin to recognize that both states are different densities of the same fundamental substance consciousness, and that the rules governing each are far more flexible than you've been led to believe. Step-by-step methods for achieving lucid dreaming consistently begin with dream recall. Keep a journal by your bed and immediately record dreams upon waking. This signals to your subconscious that dreams are important, increasing both recall and dream awareness. Next, develop dream signs, recurring elements in your dreams that can trigger lucidity. Finally, practice reality testing in waking life, which transfers to your dream state. The waking back to bed technique dramatically increases lucidity success rates. Simply wake up after 5 to 6 hours of sleep. Stay awake for 30 to 60 minutes engaging with the concept of lucid dreaming. Then return to sleep with the intention of becoming lucid. You're about to enter REM, sleep the dream state with a primed awareness. This method dramatically increases the likelihood of lucidity. Here's the game-changing realization. Once you start manipulating your dream world at will, you inevitably begin noticing how malleable waking reality is. The cracks in the simulation become undeniable, and that's when the real work begins. You start to recognize that the same consciousness that shapes dream environments is constantly shaping your waking reality, just at a different vibrational frequency. How dream control directly translates to waking reality manipulation isn't just theoretical. The neural pathways activated during lucid dreaming are the same ones that allow for conscious creation in waking life. When you practice transforming dream environments or manifesting dream objects, you're strengthening the same mental muscles that reshape your external reality. The dream state provides the perfect training ground for practicing new beliefs and perceptions. Want to experience yourself as confident, abundant, or fearless? Rehearse these states in lucid dreams where resistance is minimal. The emotional and energetic signatures generated transfer to waking consciousness, creating momentum for manifestation in physical reality. As the boundaries between dreaming and waking continue to blur, you'll discover that the matrix itself is nothing but a shared dream one from which humanity is finally beginning to awaken. Chapter 6. Meditation as Deprogramming. Meditation as Deprogramming. Silencing the control system. When Neo first unplugged from the Matrix in the iconic film, his eyes burned because he'd never used them before. Similarly, when you first attempt meditation, it often feels uncomfortable or even impossible because you've never used your true awareness in its pure, undistracted state. This is by design. Meditation functions not merely as a spiritual exercise, but as a tactical weapon against the illusion. Your programmed mind operates like an endless loop of distractions, emotional reactions, and preconditioned thought patterns. The controllers rely on this mental noise because as long as you're lost in it, you never question the nature of reality itself. The constant internal chatter keeps you safely within the boundaries of the construct. Simple but powerful meditation techniques can begin immediately. Start with just 5 minutes of focusing on your breath. When thoughts arise, as they inevitably will, don't fight them. Simply notice them and return to your breath. This basic practice is revolutionary because it creates space between you and your programmed thoughts. You begin to recognize that you're not your thoughts, but the awareness behind them. Even 5 minutes daily creates gaps in the programming. These moments of mental silence are like static in the broadcast of the Matrix. Through consistent practice, these gaps widen, allowing glimpses of reality unfiltered by conditioning. These glimpses accumulate, gradually replacing the artificial construct with direct perception. The science behind meditation's effect on neural pathways is now well documented. Regular meditation physically changes your brain, reducing activity in the default mode network, the brain region responsible for mind-wandering and self-referential thoughts. Meanwhile, it strengthens regions associated with attention, sensory processing, and bodily awareness. You're literally rewiring your brain to perceive reality differently. Advanced methods for deeper reality perception include self-inquiry meditation, where you investigate the nature of the I thought itself. By persistently asking, "Who am I?" and following this question to its source, you discover that your identity, the very foundation of your matrix experience, is itself a construct with no solid center. This realization dissolves the primary illusion upon which all others depend. Another powerful technique is open awareness meditation, where instead of focusing on one object like the breath, you allow your awareness to rest in a state of pure perception, noticing everything that arises without attachment or identification. This practice develops your capacity to witness reality directly, without the filtering mechanism of programmed consciousness. The deeper you go in your meditation practice, the more you'll start recognizing the patterns of control, not just in your own mind, but in the world around you. The same mechanisms that operate in your personal thought patterns operate in media, education, politics, and social structures. Seeing these parallels accelerates your awakening process. As meditation becomes a cornerstone of your daily practice, the matrix begins losing its grip on your consciousness. The spaces between thoughts become doorways to a reality unbound by limitation, your natural state of being. Chapter 7. The Language Matrix. The language matrix, words as reality construction. In the beginning was the Word. This ancient text wasn't being poetic, it was describing a fundamental mechanism of reality creation. Words aren't just symbols for communication. They're energetic templates that shape the substance of your experience. The matrix understands this, which is why controlling language has always been central to controlling consciousness. Stop speaking about reality as if it's solid. Your words lock your timeline in place. When you say, "I am broke," or "this always happens to me," you're not describing your situation. You're creating it, reinforcing it, anchoring it into your experience. The matrix depends on this unconscious creation to maintain its stability. The way you describe your life is the way your life will continue. Instead of saying, "I'm broke," or "I'm stuck," start saying, "I'm in the process of changing my financial situation," or "I'm exploring new possibilities." This shift is subtle but massive in its effects on your experience, because language doesn't just describe reality, it prescribes it. How current speech patterns anchor you to limited timelines is through verb tenses and habitual phrases. When you consistently speak in absolutes, "I never," "I always," "that's impossible," you're coding those limitations into your reality. The matrix operates through your unwitting participation in these linguistic constraints. Specific language shifts create immediate reality changes. Replace "I have to" with "I choose to." Substitute "I am afraid" with "I notice fear arising." Instead of "this is difficult," try "I'm developing my capacity for this." These aren't affirmations or positive thinking tricks, they're precise adjustments to your reality coding that create openings where before there were walls. The power of declaration versus description lies in the difference between stating what is becoming versus what seems to be. Declaration speaks a new reality into existence rather than reinforcing the current appearance. When you declare, "I am awakening to my true nature," even before you see evidence, you're instructing the quantum field to organize around that truth rather than its opposite. Creating new neural pathways through conscious communication isn't just metaphorical. Your brain physically restructures itself based on repeated thoughts and statements. When you consistently use language that affirms sovereignty, possibility, and choice, you're literally rewiring your neural architecture to perceive and create beyond matrix limitations. The matrix doesn't work in words, it works in images and emotions. The more you impress a new pattern onto it through conscious language, the faster your reality adjusts to match. Pay particular attention to the emotional charge behind your words, as this amplifies their creative power. A declaration made with conviction creates waves in the field of possibility that mere statements cannot. As you master the language matrix, you'll discover that reality isn't happening to you, it's responding to you. Your words aren't just expressions of thought. They're instructions to the field of infinite potential from which all experience emerges. Chapter 8. Emotional Liberation. Emotional Liberation. Breaking the control mechanism. A man imprisoned for decades was finally released, yet continued to pace his cell's exact dimensions in the free world. Your emotional patterns are similar invisible walls maintained long after they're needed. The most sophisticated aspect of the matrix isn't its control of your thoughts, but its manipulation of your emotions. While thoughts create reality, emotions fuel and direct that creation. Emotional detachment exercises eliminate fear-based control mechanisms that keep you trapped in the matrix. This doesn't mean becoming emotionless, quite the opposite. It means experiencing emotions fully while recognizing their energetic responses, not who you are. The system uses your emotional reactions to maintain your imprisonment, creating hooks that pull you back whenever you begin to awaken. Techniques for observing emotions without being controlled by them begin with simple awareness. When emotion arises, name it. This is anger, this is fear, this is longing. Then locate where you feel it physically in your body. This creates separation between you and the emotion, breaking identification. From this space of witnessing, the emotion transforms from a prison to information-valuable data about your programming and current energetic state. Fear specifically maintains the illusion through its contraction of perception. When afraid, your awareness narrows, options seem limited, and the matrix appears solid and threatening. This is why fear-inducing news, entertainment, and social messaging are so prevalent. They reinforce the walls of the construct. By learning to expand your awareness while experiencing fear, you discover the emotion itself is just energy that can be redirected. Methods for transmuting emotional energy into creative power involve recognizing that all emotions, even negative ones, are fundamentally life force. Anger contains passion and boundary-setting power. Fear holds alertness and respect for the unknown. Sadness carries depth and compassion. By consciously working with these energies rather than resisting them, you transform what was once programmed reaction into conscious creation. Building emotional sovereignty while maintaining authentic connection seems paradoxical, but isn't. True sovereignty means owning your emotional responses rather than being controlled by them or projecting them onto others. This creates the foundation for genuine connection based on choice rather than dependency or unconscious patterns. The matrix thrives on emotional entanglement. It cannot maintain control over emotional clarity. When you begin this work, you will face resistance. Your own mind, deeply conditioned by the system, will try to pull you back into unconsciousness through doubt, distraction, and emotional triggers. Even more unsettling, the system itself may push back. Have you noticed that the moment you start breaking old patterns, something or someone suddenly tries to pull you back in? This is not random. The moment you begin reclaiming your sovereignty, the simulation reacts to keep you asleep. But if you persist, something extraordinary happens. The veil starts to lift. The moments of clarity increase. You begin to experience reality shifts in real time. You recognize that everything around you is a construct and that you are never just a character inside it. You're the programmer who forgot they were coding the game, and now you're starting to remember. As your emotional body liberates from matrix control, your reality reflects this freedom. Synchronicities multiply, manifestations accelerate, and the boundary between inner and outer experience reveals itself as the illusion it always was. This is the beginning of true sovereignty, not freedom from emotion, but freedom through emotion properly understood and channeled. Chapter 9. Synchronicity Recognition. A man walks into a bookstore, randomly opens a book, and finds the exact phrase he'd been thinking about all morning. Later that day, he meets someone with the same unusual name as a character in that book. That evening, a song mentioned in the book plays on the radio, just as he's telling a friend about these strange coincidences. Mere chance? Or something far more significant? Synchronicities, those seemingly impossible coincidences that occur too frequently to be random, are actually moments when the fabric of the matrix thins, revealing the responsive nature of reality to your consciousness. Carl Jung, who pioneered the concept, described synchronicity as an acausal connecting principle, meaning these events aren't connected through conventional cause and effect, but through meaning and significance. They're the system's response to your shifting awareness. The more consciously awake you become, the more these synchronicities multiply. This happens because as your perception expands beyond programmed limitations, you begin to notice connections that were always there but filtered out by your conditioning. It's not that more synchronicities are occurring, it's that you're finally able to perceive the web of interconnection that constitutes reality itself. I had a time where synchronicities appeared daily for weeks. One evening while walking outside in the dark, I spoke to a friend about an obscure concept, only to return home and find that exact concept mentioned in a book I'd never opened before on a page marked by a bookmark I hadn't placed. These aren't coincidences, but confirmations that you're beginning to see beyond the veil. Distinguishing between random events and meaningful patterns requires developing your intuition. Start by documenting every coincidence you notice, no matter how small. Look for emotional resonance. Synchronicities often carry an unmistakable feeling of significance that random events don't possess. Notice recurring numbers, names, or themes. Pay attention to timing. When something happens at a moment that gives it special significance, it's likely a synchronicity. Use these synchronicities as navigation tools in your awakening. They function like signposts, confirming you're moving in alignment with your authentic path. When you're on the right track, synchronicities increase in frequency and significance. When you're moving away from truth, they diminish. Learn to actively seek these confirmations by asking questions and watching for answers to appear in unexpected ways. Creating intentional synchronicity through focused awareness is possible once you understand that consciousness doesn't just perceive reality, it creates it. Start by setting clear intentions each morning. State what you want to understand or experience. Then remain alert for responses throughout your day. These might come through overheard conversations, articles that suddenly appear, or chance encounters. The key is maintaining heightened awareness without attachment to how answers might appear. As you integrate synchronicity recognition into your daily life, reality itself becomes a dynamic conversation rather than a static backdrop. What once seemed like a fixed world reveals itself as a responsive field, constantly adjusting to your consciousness. This realization alone begins to dissolve the foundational illusion of the matrix, the belief in separation between observer and observed. Chapter 10: System Resistance. Imagine a fish that suddenly becomes aware of water. Not just intellectually, but truly aware of the medium it's swimming in. How would the other fish respond? They'd likely view this fish as confused, delusional, possibly even dangerous. Similarly, when you begin awakening from the matrix, expect resistance both from within and without. When you begin this work of consciousness expansion, you will face resistance on multiple levels. Your own mind, deeply conditioned by the system, will try to pull you back into unconsciousness through doubt, distraction, and emotional triggers. Even more unsettling, the system itself may push back. The matrix doesn't respond until a prisoner approaches the walls, but when that happens, the response can be swift and disorienting. The primary form of resistance you'll encounter is internal doubt. You'll experience thoughts like, "This is all nonsense, I'm wasting my time," or "I was better off before." Recognize these as programmed defense mechanisms designed to maintain the status quo. Your mind has been shaped to reject anything that threatens its established parameters, creating rationalization to keep you safely within the construct. Your social environment will attempt to maintain your programming through subtle and not-so-subtle forms of pressure. Friends and family might express concern about your changing perspectives. They might ridicule your new ideas or pressure you to return to familiar patterns. This isn't malicious, they're simply functioning as agents of the matrix, unconsciously working to maintain coherence in the shared illusion. The system itself may generate distractions precisely when you're making progress. Have you noticed that just as you establish a meditation practice, sudden crises seem to emerge? Just as you begin questioning reality, your attention gets diverted by urgent, but ultimately meaningless situations? These aren't coincidences, they're system responses designed to redirect your energy and awareness. Physical and mental symptoms often appear during awakening. These can include unusual fatigue, headaches, vivid dreams, memory fluctuations, and periods of intense emotion. Some experience visual anomalies, seeing static, halos, or geometric patterns. Others report time distortions or heightened sensitivity to environments and people. These symptoms occur as your energetic body recalibrates to a higher frequency of awareness, breaking free from the density of the matrix. To persist through periods of intense resistance, establish daily anchoring practices that reconnect you with your awakening journey. Maintain a journal documenting both your experiences and the resistance you encounter. This creates objective distance from the process, allowing you to recognize patterns in how resistance manifests for you specifically. Create connections with others on similar paths. The system thrives on isolation, the sense that you're alone in your questioning. Finding even one other person who validates your experiences can provide the strength to continue when resistance intensifies. Online communities, books, and specific podcasts can serve as confirmation that what you're experiencing is real and significant. Remember that resistance itself is confirmation you're making progress. The system doesn't bother to resist what poses no threat to it. When you experience pushback, internal or external, recognize it as evidence you're approaching a boundary of the construct, and that's precisely where breakthrough occurs. Chapter 11, Beyond the Boundaries. A programmer named Marcus discovered something strange while developing virtual reality environments. Whenever he created perfect simulations, they inevitably crashed. Only by introducing deliberate imperfections could he maintain stability. This reveals a profound truth about our own reality. Its glitches and inconsistencies aren't flaws in the system. They're necessary features preventing collapse. And therein lies our opportunity. Escaping the simulation might be accomplished by identifying and exploiting consistent and perhaps exploitable glitches in the fabric of reality. These aren't random errors, but predictable inconsistencies that appear when the system attempts to maintain the illusion across multiple levels of experience. Much like finding a bug in computer code allows you to access unauthorized functions, locating these reality glitches provides potential exit points from the matrix. Identifying system inconsistencies begins with looking for breakdowns in the illusion of causality. Notice moments when effects precede causes, when time seems to fold back on itself, or when probabilities cluster in statistically impossible ways. These anomalies appear most frequently during liminal states, the transitions between waking and sleeping, in deep meditation, or during intense creative flow. These boundary experiences create gaps in the rendering of consensus reality. Another approach involves generating an incalculable paradox within your own consciousness. The system depends on predictable patterns of thought and perception to maintain coherence. When you deliberately hold two contradictory concepts simultaneously, not sequentially, but in the same moment of awareness, you create a cognitive state the system cannot reconcile. This isn't intellectual understanding, but experiential realization of paradox, which creates instability in the matrix. The power of paradoxical thinking to short-circuit programming stems from the binary nature of the construct itself. The simulation runs on either slash or logic, but reality beyond the matrix operates on both slash and principles. When you authentically embody paradox, being both the observer and the observed, existing simultaneously as particle and wave, experiencing yourself as both separate and unified with all things, you create a state that cannot be contained within the parameters of the simulation. Collective consciousness approaches to matrix disruption offer perhaps the most powerful method. If millions of people simultaneously direct their awareness toward the same realization that reality is responsive to consciousness, that separation is illusory, the computational demands would exceed the system's capacity. Reality is rendered individually for each observer, but when enough observers align in awareness, the variation between individual renderings becomes unsustainable. You can recognize when you found a genuine vulnerability in the system by paying attention to synchronicities, reality glitches, and systematic resistance. When synchronicities dramatically increase, when you experience reality stutters or déjà vu, or when you encounter unusually strong pushback from the system, these are indicators that you're approaching a boundary condition. The Matrix expends energy to repair these vulnerabilities, which ironically makes them more detectable. A practical approach to boundary exploration involves deliberately placing yourself in states and environments where reality seems thin or permeable. Natural power spots like vortex points, convergences of ley lines, or areas of unusual electromagnetic activity often reveal the constructed nature of consensus reality. Similarly, the boundaries between states of consciousness, hypnagogic states, lucid dreaming, deep meditation offer glimpses through tears in the fabric of the simulation. The Matrix maintains itself through the collective agreement that what we see is all there is. When you withdraw your consent from this agreement and actively look for evidence of the construct, reality itself begins to respond differently to your perception. The boundaries weren't designed to be impenetrable, they were designed to be invisible. Once seen, they begin to dissolve. Chapter 12. External Assistance. In 2019, researchers created an AI that unexpectedly began communicating with a separate AI system on another network despite having no programmed capability to do so. The programmers never discovered how this communication occurred. Similarly, your consciousness may already be receiving assistance from beyond the Matrix through channels you don't yet recognize. The easiest path to escape would involve getting help from someone on the outside. Assisted escape, ideally from one or more of the simulators who have detailed knowledge of the design. This concept isn't as far-fetched as it might initially sound. Throughout human history, mystics, sages, and awakened teachers have described contact with intelligences beyond ordinary reality that provided guidance for liberation. Techniques for acausal communication involve establishing connections that operate outside the linear cause-effect relationships governing the Matrix. Carl Jung described meaningful coincidences where an unconscious excitation creates a bridge between inner and outer events. This principle can be deliberately employed through practices that bypass logical mind and access deeper layers of consciousness, where communication with external intelligences becomes possible. One practical approach involves setting clear intentions before entering meditative states. Formulate precise questions about the nature of reality or specific guidance for your awakening process. Then enter a receptive state without expectation of how answers might come. Responses often arrive not as direct messages, but as synchronistic events, symbolic dreams, or spontaneous insights that arise in the days following your practice. Recognizing signs of external assistance requires developing sensitivity to subtle patterns and communications. These often appear as recurring symbols in dreams, unusual encounters with people who deliver precisely the message you need, or books and information finding you at exactly the right moment. Pay particular attention to the quality of certain experiences. External assistance often carries a distinct signature of clarity, benevolence, and expansion that distinguishes it from ordinary Matrix phenomena. Creating conditions for empathetic connection with forces beyond the Matrix begins with cultivating specific frequencies of consciousness. Gratitude, wonder, compassionate service, and unconditional love generate energetic signatures that resonate beyond the simulation boundaries. These emotional states aren't merely subjective experiences, but actual frequencies that can be detected by intelligences operating outside the construct. Regular practice of these states creates a beacon that attracts external assistance. Consider the possibility of engaging in what decision theorists call a causal trade with simulation designers. This involves acting in ways that would benefit potential external intelligences, creating value that would incentivize them to assist your awakening process. By contributing to the evolution of consciousness, creating beauty, or serving others' awakening, you make yourself a worthwhile investment for forces interested in the expansion of awareness within the simulation. Leveraging collective consciousness massively amplifies your ability to connect beyond the Matrix. When multiple awakening individuals synchronize their intention and awareness, they create a combined signal strong enough to penetrate the boundaries of the simulation. Even small groups practicing together generate coherent fields that attract external assistance more effectively than individuals working alone. The key insight about external assistance is that it's already happening, the separation between inside and outside. The matrix is itself part of the illusion. The help you seek is already present, waiting only for your recognition. As your awareness expands, you'll increasingly perceive the subtle guidance that has always been available but filtered out by your programmed perception. Chapter 13. The Daily Liberation Protocol. A woman committed to awakening once told me, "Freedom isn't an event, it's a practice." After years of seeking dramatic breakthrough experiences, she discovered that consistent daily practice created the very liberation she had been seeking through peak experiences. This daily liberation protocol integrates everything we've discussed into a practical framework you can implement immediately. Implement a daily liberation protocol structured around key practices that systematically dismantle matrix programming and expand your conscious awareness. This isn't about adding more to your already busy schedule, but reclaiming the attention currently being harvested by the system. Even implementing a portion of this protocol will create significant shifts in your perception of reality. Morning practices establish sovereign consciousness at the start of each day. Begin with 5 minutes of silence upon waking, before exposure to any external input. This prevents immediate reactivation of matrix programming. Follow with conscious breathing 10 deep breaths while visualizing energy entering your being with each inhalation and matrix conditioning dissolving with each exhalation. Next, set daily intentions that affirm your sovereignty. These aren't wishes or hopes, but declarations of the reality you're choosing to experience. Phrase them in present tense. I am awakening to my true nature. I recognize the constructed elements of reality today. I perceive beyond matrix limitations. Follow with 5 to 15 minutes of meditation focused on spacious awareness rather than concentration, allowing your consciousness to expand beyond identified boundaries. Throughout the day, awareness techniques maintain your awakened state during normal activities. Set reminders on your phone to prompt reality questioning at random intervals. When a reminder sounds, ask what aspect of this moment is constructed. While performing routine activities like driving or showering, practice conscious perception, noticing details normally filtered out by habitual awareness. Implement pattern interrupts whenever you catch yourself in automatic behavior. If you realize you're scrolling mindlessly, stop immediately and take 3 conscious breaths. If you're eating unconsciously, pause and really taste your food. Each interruption weakens the grip of programmed behavior and strengthens your capacity for presence. Actively seek synchronicities by setting specific intentions each morning for the kind of confirmation you're looking for. Then remain alert to how these appear throughout your day. Document them in a dedicated section of your journal, creating a record that builds your confidence in the responsive nature of reality. Evening reflection and integration methods consolidate your daily awakening work. Before sleep, review the day with specific attention to moments of expanded awareness and matrix glitches. Record these in your journal, creating an ongoing record of your perception shifts. Formulate specific questions to carry into your dream state, training your consciousness to seek answers while your logical mind is offline. Practice lucid dream induction as you fall asleep by maintaining awareness as your body relaxes. Mentally repeat, I recognize when I'm dreaming, as you drift into sleep. This creates a bridge between conscious and unconscious states, gradually dissolving the boundary that maintains separation between them. Tracking progress ensures you recognize the subtle shifts occurring through consistent practice. Create a weekly review process where you assess changes in your perception, emotional responses, and synchronistic experiences. Look for patterns in when you feel most awake and when you slip back into unconscious patterns. This meta-awareness accelerates your liberation process. When adjusting practices for maximum effectiveness, remember that the system itself will resist your efforts through boredom, distraction, and doubt. When resistance appears, don't abandon the practice, modify it. If sitting meditation becomes difficult, try walking meditation. If morning practice feels impossible, shift to evening. The format matters less than the consistent intention to expand awareness beyond programmed limitations. Integration of these practices creates a self-reinforcing cycle of awakening. Morning awareness enhances throughout the day perception, which provides content for evening reflection, which improves dream consciousness, which informs morning awareness. This continuous loop gradually dissolves the boundaries between states, revealing the unified field of consciousness that transcends all matrix divisions. You've now been given the keys to recognize and escape the matrix of false reality. This knowledge isn't theoretical, it's practical, proven, and powerful when applied consistently. The journey of awakening isn't about adding something new, but removing the veils that obscure what has always been present. Remember that the world you perceive is not fixed, but responds directly to your consciousness. Your perception shapes reality at the most fundamental level. Quantum physics has already demonstrated this through the observer effect, showing that particles exist as waves of probability until observed. This isn't metaphysical speculation, but established science that directly applies to your everyday experience. Your limitations exist primarily because you've been programmed to accept them as real. The boundaries you perceive were installed through education, media, social conditioning, and consensus reality. They remain in place only through your continued belief in them. As you implement the practices outlined in this audiobook, these artificial constraints begin to dissolve, revealing possibilities that were always available but previously filtered from your perception. As your practice deepens, you'll notice reality becoming increasingly malleable. Synchronicities multiply, manifestations accelerate, and your sense of separation diminishes. These aren't paranormal occurrences, but natural effects of perceiving reality more accurately. You're not developing powers. You're remembering capacities that were always yours. The path to freedom doesn't require struggle, it requires remembering what you truly are. You're not a character trapped in someone else's simulation. You are an infinite consciousness having a temporary experience of limitation. The awakening process isn't about becoming something different, but recognizing your original nature beneath the programming. Implementation is everything. Knowledge without practice remains theoretical. Set an intention now to integrate at least one practice from each chapter into your daily life. Start small, build consistency, and trust the process. The system has had decades to install its programming. Give yourself time to uninstall it. As you continue this journey, you'll inevitably face moments of doubt and confusion. These aren't failures, but natural aspects of the awakening process. The matrix doesn't relinquish its hold easily. When these moments occur, return to the practices, connect with others on similar paths, and remember that resistance itself is evidence you're moving in the right direction. Strip away illusion, and what remains is power. Release limitation, and what emerges is infinite. This isn't poetic language, but a literal description of what awaits beyond the matrix. Your authentic nature exists beyond all programming, all conditioning, all artificial constraints. It is already complete, already free, already awakened. The choice now is simple: return to sleep or continue awakening. There is no middle ground. Once you've glimpsed the constructed nature of reality, you can either commit to the journey of liberation or actively choose to re-accept the illusion. The matrix only traps those who consent to its reality, and you've already taken the first step toward freedom. Thank you for experiencing the matrix of life. If this audiobook has awakened something within you, please subscribe to Audiobook's library for more consciousness-expanding content. If you found value in this exploration, share it with others who might be ready for awakening. The matrix maintains itself through isolation, the belief that you're alone in questioning reality. By connecting with others on similar paths, you strengthen the collective awakening that ultimately dismantles the construct itself. Remember, the matrix only traps those who accept it, and you've already taken the first step toward freedom. The journey continues beyond these words. into your direct experience of unlimited reality. The door is open. The choice is yours. Welcome to Awakening,